and welcome to In the Minds of Madness, a new series where we will be discussing horror. Now, horror has many different subgenres. In movies, you see slasher flicks, your creature features, your supernatural thrillers. But there's one subgenre that doesn't really appear that often. When it does, it's really only talked about in online subgroups and cultures. That is Lovecraftian horror, one of my favorite types of horror. And now, this series, it's going to be focused primarily on Lovecraftian horror. We're going to be talking about movies and video games that have a Lovecraftian theme. But before we can get to any of that, we need to discuss what Lovecraftian horror is. And that's what we're going to be doing today. Now, Lovecraftian horror originates from, of course, H.P. Lovecraft. He was a writer back in the 20s and 30s. He's most famous for works like Call of Cthulhu and In the Mountains of Madness, which, of course, you noticed the title of this. I'm a huge fan of his works, which, if you watch any of my other videos, you've already realized. But he's known by many people as the father or the grandfather of modern horror. And there's a couple reasons behind that. Before him, really the only types of horror there were horror like Poe, and then there was the supernatural horror. With Poe, most of his stories were the evil in the stories was the evil in men's hearts, like the Cask of Amontillado, the Telltale Heart, the Fall of the House of Usher. They might have supernatural aspects, but when it all boils down, the evil is people. And then you had, before that, also you had the supernatural creature stories where it was like, okay, it's a ghost, or it's a werewolf, or it's a vampire. Now, in Lovecraft's works, it's a little bit different. The evil's not like everything else. In everything else, you have either it's a spirit, or it's a monster, or it's someone. In his, it's a cosmic horror. Something that lies outside of our knowledge and our ability to comprehend, which is the first aspect. It's the unknowable. The way he wrote the creatures and the aspects and the powers were outside of our realm of reality and our realm of knowledge. Just even looking at something from these other realms of existence could drive you insane or just kill you. And these forces, we're not meant to know them because the human mind can't understand. And because of that, one of the main themes is a theme of hopelessness. So the creatures, when they do manifest, they are usually abominations. There's mouths and eyes and tendrils and claws everywhere. Like, perfect example, I'm going to put up you'll probably be seeing right now, right about here, someone's illustration of a Shoggoth, which is from the story In the Minds of Madness. Yeah, that's how most of the stuff in his works are. Just trying to comprehend how that thing works makes my head hurt. So, yeah. The first main theme is the cosmic horror. It's things where we don't actually understand what's going on, a lot of stuff's unknown, and we are not able to know what's fully going on. Now, the second aspect of Lovecraftian horror is, as I mentioned, hopelessness. Almost every single one of his stories ends up one of three ways. You have the hero dies, or the hero goes insane and spends the rest of their life in a mental institution where they're telling their story. Or three, they're writing everything down before they die from whatever they came across. That's how most of them turn out. So there's no happy ending in these stories. You're lucky if you spend the rest of your life babbling incoherently and writing things on the wall with your poo. Yeah. So the fact that these things can not only hurt you physically, but attack your mind is another strong aspect, and affect your mind is a strong aspect of Lovecraftian horror, which is one of the most used aspects in modern day. Now, everyone has had exposure to something that is either pure Lovecraftian horror or inspired by Lovecraftian horror. Like, a perfect example is one of my favorite movies. I actually had to rewatch it like 2 days ago just to watch it again. the 1982 version of The Thing. Now, yes, it's an alien. The Thing is an alien. But one, it doesn't have that symmetry that we're used to, which that asymmetry, I believe is how you say it. I'm being a derp. But the appearance and all that adds to that because it goes against all logic. We look at stuff, we like to see symmetry. And this thing, the Thing is not. It's this disturbed, grotesque monstrosity, which kind of looks like a Shoggoth when you think about it. And the story kind of fits in the Mountains of Madness, if you ever read that. So that has some themes of Lovecraftian horror. And then there's also the fact that the way the movie ends. The movie is 30 years old, so it's not really a spoiler, but the movie ends with them blowing up the entire facility, and there being 2 guys left, and them deciding, well, there's nothing we can do, so let's drink until we freeze to death. And then it cuts away. That's the ending. That's not a happy ending whatsoever. So there's one example of a movie inspired by Lovecraftian horror. It's not 100%. It has a lot of the main aspects, though. It's got enough to be considered a Lovecraftian horror movie. Now, a video game that has aspects of Lovecraftian horror. And I'm kind of hesitant to say this one because I've never beaten it, and I never really kept up with the lore, but Dead Space has a lot of aspects of Lovecraftian horror. I mean, you have the cosmic horror, the monolith, which, if I remember correctly, it just sends out a signal that turns people into the necrophages, which, how that works, no one really knows, as far as I know, in the first one. And then you have the necrophages. They have disturbing, grotesque, like, odds and ends growing off of them, and they look inhuman, and then the baby faces, and yeah. So they fit the cosmic horror aspect. And then there's the second theme of the hopelessness, which ties in with insanity. Because Isaac, as many people know, Isaac, he's trying to find his girlfriend. I think it's his girlfriend or his fiance or something. But as he's going through this, he's starting to see things and all that. And it ends up he's just going crazy. And because of the monolith and all this stuff he's seeing is because of the monolith. So you have that insanity and all that, what's real, what's not. And in the end, he survives, but he's nuts. So it's not really a happy ending. Everyone else dies. He survives, yes. So it's not... He survives and goes on to keep on fighting these and finally I think he finally gets cured. I don't know. I've never played the second or third one. Don't hate me for this. But it does... Visually, it has a lot of Lovecraftian aspects, and the fact that it's sci-fi horror, because a lot of Lovecraft's works, he tried to put sci-fi and science into his work. So they were more borderline sci-fi horror. Like Event Horizon, which is an awesome movie. If you've never seen it, watch it. Which is another Lovecraftian type movie. I can't even believe I forgot Event Horizon. That one's awesome. So, yeah, there's a couple of examples of Lovecraftian horror. Now, the reason why I'm doing this series, and why I'm focusing on Lovecraftian horror, is I feel it's not really appreciated as much as it should be. Not just because I love Lovecraftian horror and I love Lovecraft's works, but because it's a type of horror that's much deeper and darker than a lot of others. I mean, when you look at, like, slasher flicks, you have your psychos, like Psycho. You have your supernatural aspect, which is like vengeful spirits, like Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street, because that's what they are. They're people who were pissed off, died, and decided to seek revenge from the dead. And then you have, every once in a while you get like an inhuman thing, but usually that's what it boils down to. Then when you have like your creature features, it's usually, which the creature feature is a term that kind of originated around the 40s, 50s for the movies that have monsters in them. Like back in the day, The Blob, the creature from the Black Lagoon, Frankenstein, stuff like that. Those were considered creature features. So, I mean, you look at most creature features, it's either an alien, something ancient, or something man-made. Not that much depth behind that. And then you have your supernatural thrillers, which are ghosts. 90% of the time, it's ghosts or evil spirits. And you have things like the Sixth Sense, which is just normal ghosts, good and bad. Or you have your evil ghosts like The Ring and The Grudge, and then you have your spirits like The Exorcist and Insidious. I mean, I'm not saying that any of these movies are bad, or any of these types of movies are bad. They're just lacking a layer of depth to me. They're a little bit too 2D to me, because it's like, okay, there's a monster, or okay, there's a crazy guy killing people. It's like, okay, some of them are really good, some of them are really written and have good storylines, but they always seem to be lacking something to me. Just part of the reason why I love Lovecraftian horror so much is it has a lot of depth. Usually these are horror stories where you don't know what's going on. What is doing everything? You don't know exactly what it is. And you never will, because you can't understand what it is. Which is, in my opinion, and Stephen King's opinion, is a wonderful aspect for horror. Not explaining what is going on. Building up that tension and never fully releasing it. Because once you name what it is, once the unknown becomes the known, it takes a lot of that horror away. Lovecraftian horror, it's the way it's done, you can know what it is, but you still don't know what it is. Because it's like, okay, here's what it looks like, but 5 different people, it'll look something completely different, and no one knows exactly if this is the way it should look. And what it is, it's not really... There's that level of unknown to the depth of the story. And that unknown is what makes amazing horror. And then there's the fact that it's much more realistic. If these main characters, like Lovecraftian horror, Lovecraft's works, his main characters were normal, average, everyday people. There's nothing special about them. At most, the main character would be a scholar that kind of stumbled across something that they shouldn't have. And then they get drawn into what they stumbled across and either die or go insane. But the fact that they're not heroes, they just are trying to survive. They're average, everyday people. And then there's the fact that most of the time, they don't. And when they do have victory over the cosmic horror, it's usually only temporary. Like in the Call of Cthulhu, which is one of the main stories. And of course, if you haven't heard of Cthulhu, or Cthulhu, the pronunciation is all over. But if you've ever read that story, seen anything of that story, or even heard of Cthulhu, it's this big, honking monstrosity that will never die. He's been slumbering in R'lyeh underneath the ocean this entire time. And in the story, he wakes up. Just his dreams can cause people to go insane. But he wakes up. But as he's waking up and coming out of R'lyeh, someone rams a ship into him. And he pops. He's not gone. The city sinks. He's still there. He can't die. But they just made it to where he went back to sleep until the stars are aligned again. So he will come back and he will devour the entire world. Just, they stopped it from happening that day. And that's how a lot of Lovecraftian horror is. It's that hopeless victory. It's that, yes, we won, but for how long? So all those aspects, I love Lovecraftian horror because of that depth. So, as I was saying, the reason why I'm doing this is, there's 2 reasons. One, I want to spread exposure to Lovecraftian horror. I want more people to read Lovecraft stories and see these modern works of Lovecraftian horror, because they are amazing horror, but they don't really get appreciated that much. I mean, whenever something that's truly Lovecraftian, that is true to the source and all that comes out, it's really only seen and enjoyed by the internet subcultures that are focused on Lovecraft. And some of these things are amazing, but no one sees them. I think they deserve a little bit more exposure. So, if you've never heard of Lovecraft, or anything Lovecraftian, this series is to kind of help you come into it and get exposed to it. Part of the reason why we're going to be going over the movies and video games, they have the aspects. Well, I'll also be linking either in the description below or in annotations. You'll probably see a couple pop up around my head to a couple different sites. Like right here will probably be a link to an online library of all of his works. So if you really want to read his works, you can. And then I'll probably link to a couple of other subgroups and subcultures that me personally I kind of keep tabs on. The other reason why I'm doing this is for the fans of Lovecraftian horror, because all of us Lovecraftian fans, we know that Lovecraftian material is scarce. Unless it's coming from these subgroups and subcultures, it's kind of hard to get our hands on good stuff. So I kind of want to spread the word on things I really enjoy that fit the Lovecraftian aspect. So that's the other reason. So it's for pretty much everyone. If you've never experienced Lovecraft, definitely go check out the sites that I'll be linking to and annotations and all that. And if you have, maybe go back. Maybe I'll be linking to a community that you've never heard of that you'd enjoy, or maybe you just want to enjoy this stuff more. So yeah, that's pretty much as in depth as I'm gonna go this time in Lovecraftian horror. I mean, I could do a full history of Lovecraft. I don't think you guys want to listen to me drone on and on about that, and I kind of don't want to, because that would be a lot of research, which yeah, I kind of don't want to do, because yeah, I'm lazy, I'll admit. But yeah, I hope you all enjoy this, and I hope that you all will enjoy the content that I'll be bringing in this series from now on, because I've already got like 20 episodes of this series thought up of different things to go over. Now, just to clarify before I wrap this up, this will not be 100% Lovecraftian horror. I will be covering other aspects of horror and all of that, but right now it's going to be Lovecraftian. Now, you the viewers, if there's anything you want me to talk about, or if there's anything you want me to review or anything like that, because I might do a couple movie reviews or video game reviews. If you ever want me to do anything like that, just let me know. If there's enough demand, then I'll start doing that stuff also. So that brings us to a close this episode. So thank you all so much for watching. Until next time.